Guyana.
Guyana, please join me on the Glenn Lal Show, 99.1, 99.5 FM, Kaieteur Radio, every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, 7:20 p.m. and a rebroadcast of the next day at 11 a.m. just in case you missed that program.
This is the news on top of the hour.
Live from our studio in Georgetown.
Kaieteur Radio, 99.1 FM.
Good evening, welcome to this evening's newscast on Kaieteur Radio. Kevin Smith here. Without further ado, let's get to the news in detail. Embattled Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowenfield, Deputy CEO Roxanne Myers, and Region 4 Returning Officer Clement Mingo were yesterday charged with conspiracy to declare false accounts of votes. The three GCOM officials were slapped with two charges, one for the March 2nd, 2020 regional elections and the latter charge for the general elections. They appeared in the Georgetown Magistrates Court before Principal Magistrate Cheryl Isaacs Marcus. Principal Isaacs Marcus granted the defendants bail in the sum of $100,000 each for the two charges, and the matter was adjourned to September 14th. In other news, yesterday, a tearful 27-year-old Quentin Chase of Norton Street Work in Rust was remanded to prison by Chief Magistrate Anne McLennan after he was charged for killing his younger brother. Chase made this first court appearance in the Georgetown Magistrates Court. He was not required to plead to the indictable charge, which alleges that on June 25th he murdered his brother, 24-year-old Paul Anthony Chase. After remanding him, the Chief Magistrate adjourned the matter to July 22nd. On the day of the incident, the dead man's mother, Sonia Chase, said that her sons had a misunderstanding, which then got out of control. Based on police reports, Paul received two stab wounds, one to his neck and the other to his chest. And moving on, shortly after the Director of Public Prosecutions returned advice, the four men who were in custody for the murder of West Coast Berbice teenager Harish Singh of No. 3 Village, West Coast Berbice, were yesterday charged with the capital offense of murder. The men, 29-year-old Philip Anderson, 27-year-old Joel Gittins, and 21-year-old Charles Scott, along with a relative of the Henry boys, 27-year-old Gladstone Henry, were arrested by ranks from the Ghana Police Force Major Crimes Unit and were charged yesterday with the murder committed on September 9th, 2020. They were remanded to prison and the case was adjourned to July 12th. The matter was also transferred to the Blairmont Magistrates Court for report. A wanted bulletin was issued for Gladstone Henry, who later turned himself over to the authorities in the company of his lawyer, Nigel Hughes. And moving on, 81 Haitians were rescued on Sunday by law enforcement officials after they were found abandoned and wandering along the Linden Latham Trail around the vicinity of Kurupukari Crossing. Based on information, two children were amongst the 81 persons that were found. We understand that the Haitians formed the group to flee to Brazil after the free visa travel to Guyana for Haitian citizens was recently revoked by President Ali. The group was found and picked up by law enforcement officials and was taken to the Latham Immigration Office. It is unknown as to how the group got to the location where they were kept. It is believed that they were in the jungle for days with limited food and water. In other news, the Executive Committee of the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation and on Agriculture, comprising Argentina, Bolivia, Ecuador, Guatemala, Guyana, and others, has elected Guyana as rapporteur for the current committee. Guyana now bears the responsibility for the presentation of resolutions of the proceedings for approval by the Executive Committee. The election comes as part of a two-day consultation for the analysis of technical, administrative, and financial matters that are pertinent to the IICA's member states. In his address, the Minister of Agriculture of Guyana, Zulfikar Mustafa, praised the progress of agri-food system developments in the Caribbean. He also noted that President Irfan Ali was elected as the lead spokesperson in the Caribbean to comment on agriculture, and that President Ali's recommendation to CARICOM for the development of a ministerial task force to advance the agri-food system was now not only implemented but extremely active, and as a result, tremendous progress has been made within the past 3 months on the topic. And to wrap things up this evening, let's tell you 4 men who on Saturday refused to pay a hot dog vendor for 10 hot dogs they had eaten decided to beat him with a cricket bat and steal his day's sales. Recovering at home from a broken jaw and multiple lacerations to his body is 41-year-old Ignatius Nazim Manoff, a immigrant from Venezuela who resides at Ana Catarina on the west coast of Berbice. Manoff was beaten and robbed by the men sometime after 20 hours that evening along the roadway at Ana Catarina. According to reports received, the hot dog vendor could have been beaten to death had it not been for the intervention by residents living nearby. He was unable to speak when we contacted him earlier today because of his broken jaw. And that's the news of the moment. Remember to get the full details of these stories, pick up a copy of the Kaieteur News. And don't forget, you can catch us on the